I stumbled on the story of how Freud escaped from Vienna very much by accident. I met someone called Murray Hall who was studying really the books that were published by Freud's psychoanalytic press, and he told me about someone called Anton Sauwald. Sauwald was a Nazi, and he has every reason to be called a good Nazi. He really did arrange for Freud to leave Vienna, but the Freud family on the whole didn't treat him well. One of Freud's nephews, in fact, had him arrested as a war criminal, and Sauwald's trial lasted longer than the trials at Nuremberg. Freud didn't want to leave Vienna after the Nazis took over in March 1938. He'd lived there all his life from the age of 4. He'd written all his most important books in the flat that he and his wife and their children lived in Berggasse. And while very distinguished Jews like Einstein thought it was much wiser to leave Europe with the Nazi influence and persecution, Freud stayed and stayed. What changed his mind was when the Gestapo arrested his daughter Anna on March the 22nd, 1938. The day he described as the worst in his life. He paced up and down his apartment. His doctor came to see him. Freud chain-smoked as he paced. Anna was not only arrested, but she was threatened by the Gestapo. And when finally they let her go after some intervention by the American ambassador, Freud decided he would have to leave Vienna. But that wasn't so easy to arrange. He had to find money to pay the Nazi exit tax, and he had to persuade the British to accept him. He was very lucky in one sense. The Nazis had appointed a trustee to all Jewish businesses in Vienna, and they appointed a youngish chemist called Anton Sauwald. Sauwald was a Nazi, and a convinced Nazi, but he knew that Freud was a distinguished man. He was also very thorough, so what he did was to read every one of Freud's books. Freud would not have got out without the help of Princess Marie Bonaparte, who was a great-grandniece of Napoleon, and she owned the casino at Monte Carlo. Indeed, she owned most of Monaco. So she was able to provide the money that Freud needed, and she also cozied up to Anton Sauwald. That's why if you come to London and visit the Freud Museum, what you'll see here are the actual couch that Freud analysed his patients on and his actual library. They didn't come after the war, they came in 1938 on a specially commissioned train which bizarrely the Gestapo paid for. So I've enjoyed writing this book, and I hope if people read it they will enjoy reading it, and Sauwald deserves actually to be remembered with honour because he saved 17 Jews, including Freud.